This one is now, yeah, I can even see the audio. It's probably super loud. That's better, I assume. Now you hear it. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so the first thing I did. Good to see you too. How are you? I saw there was a pull request that arrived, or not a pull request, but some content arrived, I believe, in the values. There we go. RT Bensal. We have some Slack research that was done, which is very useful. And this, I was going to do this, I think. Let's get this one. Copy. So, week one, and this one is learning language details and create a professional Okay, so I'm going to double check to see who else we have around. So is that works right there. So this week is a little different than what was scheduled. I'm just checking to see how we're doing in terms of LGTM ship it. We'll mute this tab. Mute site. There we go. Good. So here we go. We have some people have arrived. So little different this week in terms of what's specifically on the calendar. Partially because I expect all of us to have our own language choices. I don't know that going into the specifics of any individual language has a lot of value if some of us are doing JavaScript and some of us are doing C Sharp and maybe somebody's doing Java. I think that's probably better saved for best saved for a personal endeavor. Also, yeah, it's a personal thing to deal with. But I think one of the things that was particularly interesting in terms of what we can do in getting ready for algorithm practice and things. Well, actually, I'll give you another update. I picked up this the other day, which is cracking the coding interview. Which, if you are doing any research at all into how to do a code interview, this is yeah. If you have do you have the sixth edition as well, or do you have because the PDF version for um, uh, the PDF version for this is widely available. Yeah. Okay. So that's that's a particularly good book to pick up and go through, and it will have everything you need in terms of the algorithm practice. I'm going to use the content of this to build the content for the algorithm weeks. But in preparation before getting into that, I thought it was really useful, especially considering so many of us are not actually targeting FAANG so much as we're targeting growth as a developer and growth in our careers. I thought I'd travel down this path around deeping, doing a deeper dive into the practice of professional self-reflection as a practice, because this is one of the things that I learned as a high school teacher, that it is critically important to engage in this ongoing practice of just monitoring your career as you go. And if you don't think about this, then you're going to spend your time waiting for other people to hand you the change in your career versus taking the time to think about what you want. And I think actually, I mean, there is, for example, let me give an example that I think at least one of you may be familiar with. In fact, I'll do it from my own perspective as well. I won't call out Josh or anything. But so at my current employer, there was a strategic plan at a high level, many steps higher than I am in my, it was sort of like the yeah, many steps higher than I am in my space, where the use of CRM platforms became a priority. Our clients in the agency world many of them have started moving from working on hand-rolled websites to working on things that are much like WordPress, just sort of content CMS. It's actually CMS, not CRM. So they're working on CMS systems, and there are a couple of CMS systems that major clients are starting to work in. One of them is Adobe Experience Manager, and one of them is Sitecore. And the request went out to the wider employee base as to who wants to, step up, who wants to be a hero, who wants to be recognized, who wants to learn how to work with these high-end CMS systems. And perhaps unsurprisingly, nobody wanted to learn them. But there was, because of the recognition attached to learning one of these systems, it can be framed as a promotion in the context of the place that you currently are, right? So they're saying, who wants to learn CMS? And you've been in this microcosm, or this small society for so long, that what you're seeing is, in terms of hierarchy, if I go from working on what I am currently working on to specializing in this CMS product for the good of the company, this means I'm getting a promotion and I'm going to grow in my career. Now, the problem with going down that route is working in these CMS systems is actually not a very enjoyable experience. It's not a very creative experience on the whole, and you're really blocked into, although they are high value tools, it's like, you could also say, if you had the opportunity to specialize in Salesforce, yeah, right, it's terrible, but if you had the opportunity to specialize in Salesforce, again, it's a very high return job. People are crying out for Salesforce developers. Salesforce developers are very well rewarded, but it also comes with the cost of having to work with Salesforce, which is not a particularly enjoyable platform to work on, and it is not a particularly creative platform to work on for the vast majority of the work. And so the want to become famous by followers and viewers on. I suspect that this person is not here for the professional development podcast, and we will be reporting you later and shaming you. That's what we're also going to do. I'm going to say shame. Can I do this? How do I shame this person? Click to reply. I can't find the shame this person button. Anyways, ban? Okay, well, one day I'm going to find out how to ban these people, because they are terrible. I don't know. That's what I don't know about modding on Twitch. Oh, I bet you I click their name. I click their name. I say block and report. I say report, spam. There we go. I think it's a bot account, and I think it's malicious links. Dot submit report, and then block them, close. There we go. Thank you. There, we figured it out. They should be gone, I hope. And can I delete their comment? I can see it, but ban, timeout. I don't know. Hopefully that's good enough. So, let me see. So, the point, yeah. So the point that we were about to arrive at is, if you move into these positions where you feel like you are about to get a promotion within it's sort of like within the high school that you're in, right? Like it's, oh, I'm going to be cooler in this one domain, but it's a domain that you don't enjoy and a domain that you are not particularly interested in, then then you're not in charge of your own direction or your own destiny. And so by making sure you take the time to engage in these professional development type programs, you will at least make sure you will get a few things just out of the box by going through the exercise. You will be able to identify the opportunities that move you closer to your goal. You'll be able to avoid the opportunities that that take you down a tangent that you are not interested in following. So I believe some of us are interested in learning more React, and so or learning more back-end stuff, and or JavaScript stuff. And so if you just have a codified plan in place, that's going to put you in a position where you are more likely to be able to see and seize the goals that you have. And where did I put it? I think I saved some information about, so under documents, professional self-reflection questions. So first of all, full disclosure, I took this from this looks like it is a healthcare professional self-reflection. And I think so. This is an exercise that I think is worth doing, to try and nail down what do you want, and really getting to the core of what your desired outcomes are for the 1 to 3. Like, what do you want to have happen within the next 6 months to a year? What do you want to have happen in the next 3 years? Where do you want to be? And, you know, where do you want to be in 5 or 10 years? And these are in every single, uh, you know, they're in all of these personal development plans at work. You sit down in your one-on-one and your manager says, where do you want to be in 5 or 10 years, and what are you trying to do? And I don't know how you feel about those, but I tend to feel when I'm sitting down in those ones that I feel a pressure to give the right answer, because I feel like I can't be honest in those ones. I feel like I can't say, well, realistically, I don't want to be here. really, realistically, I am trying to move into a different line of business entirely. I think the and maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's wrong of me. Maybe it's important. Sorry, I keep looking off to the side here because that's actually where the chat is. So I there we go, chat. So I can when I see you guys come up, I can check for chat. But I think when you are, oh, in one of I either find something I need advice for, or pretend like everything's okay. They are yeah, and that's exactly it, because I think you are in a situation where there is a power imbalance, and if you say the wrong thing within that situation where there is a power imbalance, it can negatively impact you. And I think that's my concern, and probably the reason that I also try and give sort of fake answers to get around them. And so in this case, the worksheet is not for your manager, but it's for you. And I think there's something a little more freeing about that, where you don't have to give the answer, you don't have to give the answer that your manager or anybody with direct responsibility or input on your success has to read the answers. And so these are two, and they don't just have to be work goals. You could say, I would like to change my apartment. I would like to, whatever. I would like to, I don't know, other stuff. You can do other stuff in there. So there was a really great, and so this is the scope of the questions, and I think if you want to share as we read them out, it would be maybe helpful and encouraging to see the types of answers that we get, and it might be good for sharing, and it might provide a scaffolding for other members of the group to sort of be able to give their own answers based on what they see other people doing. So I think if I'm saying what are my current practice areas and or professional interests, first of all, it's improving in terms of this study group process, in terms of the podcast in general. I think those are really interesting to me because of the desire to have a positive impact on the developer community around me. I think if I'm talking about where that drive is coming from, it's coming out of the back of COVID, this sort of year of languishing, and the last 4 years of effectively darkness, where we've seen such, you know, a callous disregard for other people. The idea of being able to do something positive in the world will hopefully help me process and heal from the impact of the pandemic. But at the same time, I'm also attempting to use this myself for my own growth in, maybe I look for another job, or maybe things come online and I find myself in a situation where I can stick around. But we'll see. I think there's that going on, and so maybe I give a couple of seconds to see if anybody else does want to share, and we can talk about other people's opinions or theories or feelings. This is a feelings week. But if not, I can go on. But I'll just give a couple more seconds to see, just so it's not necessarily and there was one of the videos I wanted to pull up as well, where she talks about, oh no, it's in here. Yeah. Okay. So your current practice area is front-end development with React. You want to be really good with it and move into senior positions. And there's a lot to learn in the space. And so in terms of understanding what's going on, and in terms of focusing, oh, here, good. Oh, wonderful. Green tech charity, also money. Very true. My current practice areas are AEM and Java and JavaScript. I want to find a job where the project aligns with my passion or gives back to the world. Actually, to that end, Josh, have you seen the GitHub Clean Tech Challenge? Tech Challenge news. I'm going to try news. I will have to track it down. I don't want to click on links indiscriminately, but one of the things that GitHub Tech Challenge might actually be it. No, front-end coding challenge. Anyways, GitHub is running let me try searching on a screen where we're not going to be. There are a number of open source projects in GitHub related to clean tech, and they are sponsoring a contest, I believe, of some form or another, so if I bring up the GitHub feed, I might be able to find some of their posts. See all posts in GitHub. So I feel like I can probably scroll this as a safe to work space. How Global Forest uses open source to fight deforestation. Interested in contributing to the open source software that is combating climate change to protect our planet? Check it out here. So that's not the one that I was talking about, but it's close. There was a recent thing that they had where it was not quite a contest, but it was a call for participation on clean projects. I guess they must have launched that for Earth Day. no, maybe this is it. Let me post this in chat here for you, so that you can read that on your own. My understanding, because that's an open source project, you could, in theory, just start contributing and being a part of it. One of the things that you could get out of contributing to open source, especially in your area of interest and passion, is you will start to make connections in that space. You will start to talk to other developers, and you can start asking them, well, how do I find a job in the space of doing this? And because you are contributing on some scale, when the role comes along that you want to go for, your name will be, you could actually put it in your resume that your name has been pushing commits into a major green initiative. And so that suddenly gives you a further leg up in terms of people saying, oh, well, I mean, because people, look for things in your resume that will stand out in the space that you're talking about. So from there, you can use that. So here we go. Currently strictly front end, have long-term goals to expand to full stack, short-term goals to become more self-sufficient in seeing side projects through to the end. And I think that's, I know, Glenn, that you had said you've also, I believe, started some Code Academy type stuff as well, or like learning more of these projects. So there we go. We've got some good contact. So within my areas of practice, what roles or responsibilities do I perform now? So there's the question that we can each ask ourselves. Do we have things where we currently, so now if I go back up to my personal one, I would say no, I don't really have roles or responsibilities in my professional space, but I do have, but I am doing the work. Now, if you don't have those, and so what external factors or trends are affecting, oh, here's more. Yeah, I started reading a book on Node.js and I'm really enjoying it. But it is, yeah. Right. And there was that book that you linked up. What was it? JavaScript that you don't know or something, or you don't know JavaScript? You don't know JavaScript. And it was on GitHub. And here it is. GitHub, the You Don't Know JavaScript book. What an interesting, so is this whole book available on GitHub in its entirety? Well, that's really cool. I'll paste that there so people can click on the link if they want to. So here you go. You can have a star as well. Oh, good. Good. Well, look at that. Okay. So what external factors or trends are affecting or will affect my professional practice? So I think for Rajat and Glenn, both of you are talking about it. If I'm looking back over this, both of you are talking about improving in your front end space. There's no question. There is no question that the professional space for front end work is not going anywhere, and in fact, it's probably just growing. One of the things that I thought was an interesting headline that I just picked up was Netflix is going to launch their Toronto headquarters well, their Canadian headquarters will launch in Toronto for their corporate office. I actually tweeted at the Netflix engineering account, and let's see if I've had a response yet. No response yet, but there was at one point I asked them if they are going to have development work at their Canadian office, and they don't know yet. But so, and now the relevance to that for front end work is Netflix is very heavy on JavaScript and very heavy on front end. Basically, to be a really good front end focused dev with great problem solving skills and not get stuck on frameworks. Right. Now here's another one that's fun, which is what areas of my profession do I enjoy? And I think that's pretty clear from the ones that are above, except maybe for Josh, where I happen to know that he is not a massive fan of AEM and Java, although JavaScript might be a different answer. And so if you are working towards the things that you enjoy, that's really good. But if you are working towards the things that you do not enjoy, that's... Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, so from that perspective, like maybe training to be a mobile developer using Java on Android platforms is an interesting way to go, because you can still do the Java stuff, but you're not tied to. There's actually just so many places where Java is heavily used. So I would say over anything that is a great language to choose for your code interview thing. Like Amazon uses it, Google, everybody is using Java, so there's no question. And so you enjoy the creativity, bringing designs to life, and the thrill of seeing users use the product, and building is what I love about the profession. Yeah, so that's the stuff. And so what you want to do is, outside of just naming it, making sure that you write it down, because once it's been captured, you can go through this type of document with a lens, or you can look at your career opportunities from the lens of, does this operate, because we have a limited amount of time and there are probably way more opportunities available to us. There are hopefully way more opportunities available to us than the number of opportunities that we can pursue. And so if you have this stuff codified, you will be able to more easily identify these areas of growth or these opportunities when they appear, so that, sorry, this is actually water in a gin bottle, but so you'll be able to identify these abilities when they appear, or these opportunities when they appear, and you'll be able to move faster into them with less trepidation, less anxiety. You say, this is the thing that was written on my list. I know that I want this. And if you are able to move, sometimes being able to move with certainty is the key to actually being able to successfully move into something. And so, again, writing this stuff down and codifying this set of goals is it's step one. Step two is actually there is a longer practice of reviewing the things that you've done on a daily basis and a weekly basis in moving forward towards this stuff. But again, so much better to have this stuff for yourself rather than sitting through a one-on-one where you're trying to give the right answer. Additionally, with that said about trying to give the right answer, it sometimes might be that, at least in my experience, and you can speak up if you've had this, if you've had something different, but in my experience, if I go into one of these one-on-one meetings having not done the reflection, I feel really on the spot, right? And so you kind of talk to fill the space of empty sound, and you don't take the time to think about it or really even meditate on it. And so maybe if you have this written down, and maybe if it even does say, I'm trying to get out of my current position and go work somewhere else that is more interesting and meets these goals, maybe the team members who are responsible for assigning work to you can try and make adjustments in a way that will allow you to stay and do what you want. And so there are multitudes of reasons to do this. It is actively expected out of the teaching career, and I actually believe that it is it is part of the definition of being a professional that we engage in this stuff, that we do these self-reflection and these plans, because otherwise you're just somebody doing a job. It's the defining feature of a professional that they take stock of their profession, and they engage in continuous improvement. And how can you really engage in continuous and deliberate improvement if you haven't taken an inventory of the places that you want to improve? And that, what are my current leadership responsibilities? I don't know that that's really important, but it's nice to write down. Most of the times, I think as developers in this space, we're either small scale individual contributors or whatever. If we were on the management track, this would be particularly relevant. But you can ask the question and your answer can be none. And then this is where the thing gets really valuable. Answering every question and solving every problem for everyone on the team, talking to clients and not telling them they are. Yeah. Okay. So okay. So allow me to walk that back. There is absolutely leadership responsibilities in terms of, you're right. Okay. Consider me corrected. That's right. Because your leadership responsibilities are not just leading other people. You're right. Because if you are leading the delivery of the project, and if you are the go-to point on answering all technical problems surrounding that, then that's true. And I think if I was newer in my career, I would take Josh's answer and try to adapt that to my own position, because perhaps as someone newer in career, you don't answer every question, and maybe you don't get that many questions to yourself personally. And so if you were trying to grow into a space where you were a leader, maybe you would hop on those questions early to get yourself the reputation of being somebody who answers the questions, being somebody that you can go to for those questions to be asked of. And that's because we are all at different stages in our career, and that's I think that's really good advice. So thank you. Now, what do I want my future practice to be? This is again a question quite related to what areas of my profession do I enjoy, and quite related to the idea that if I have this stuff codified, written down, I will be able to move quickly into the role or the opportunity that I see. Right? It's so again, take these questions, answer them, think about them, and then answer them. What are my strengths, and what are my professional areas for improvement? And this one needs some deep reflection. I mean, you have to think about: are you? You have to think about this stuff honestly. Do you maintain an appropriate level of professional behavior at all times, or are you loud and emotional? Maybe I could be a little less emotional. You know, what things are going on in your daily practice, in your and some of these are things that you can think about on a more daily basis or something. So that's or I think it's probably reasonable to schedule maybe half an hour to an hour once a week or once every 2 weeks to go through the list or double check what's in the list. Or some of the things that you can ask yourself weekly are, what have I done this week to move myself closer towards my goals? What are the things I did well this week? What are the things that I should try to improve on for next week? You don't need to be a manager to be a leader. There are plenty of opportunities for people to show leadership skills, from researching technical libraries, making recommendations for code process improvements, doing proof of concepts, to managing your own tasks and workload. Absolutely. I absolutely agree, and I completely retract my previous, leadership, and it's true. It's true. So my professional goals. What are my professional goals? That's the thing. And so these are the 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, and we've been talking about them a few times above. And I think we have an idea. But at the end of writing all of this stuff down, the next piece of valuable insight comes from SMART goals. This, from the Indeed Career Guide, is you want to make sure your goals are specific. You want to make sure that they are measurable, attainable, relevant to the long-term objections, and time-based. So let's go back up and see, and Glenn, I hope you are okay with me calling you out on this one, because you have a very clearly stated goal above that was really easy to convert into currently strictly front end. I have a long-term goal to expand into. Okay. Thank you. I have a long-term goals to expand into full stack and short-term goals to become more self-sufficient in seeing side projects through to the end. Started reading a book on Node.js, really enjoying it for sure, but it assumes I'm better at JavaScript than I am, so I'm reading both, but now, you don't know JS. And so the long-term goals are, they're your goals, so they're good goals. They're, if they're what you want, they're good. But the question becomes, is that, so is it specific? Let's go through each of those questions. And so let's start with the short-term goal of becoming more self-sufficient in seeing side projects through to the end. Is that specific, or is there a way that we can frame that such that it is more specific than it is right now? So I like the idea of the generic goal alongside the specific goal. So I think maybe how would we frame it to make it more specific? Let's, rather than just me talking, let's talk together about how do we convert this into something that is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So what could we do to make it more specific? Probably, let me have a sip of water in case somebody else is typing. I can't see 3 dots in chat, so here. Yeah, see, so this is good. So I have an idea to add a workplay toggle to my portfolio site and what to put in it. A great goal would be to finish that. And that would be so much more specific than getting better at finishing goals, because that's general. And that's a really good, to my mind, that actually is a really good short term, like a medium term goal or a long term goal, because that's something that can guide your specific goals. The specific goal is add the workplay toggle. Now, how do you make it measurable? I mean, that's really, quite honestly, a binary choice. Is if it's there, you get your check mark. If it's not there, you don't. An app idea for a medium goal as well. So we can discuss that one too. Now, the size of the goal sounds attainable to me. Add the workplay toggle, right? Relevant. It is, because that is not necessarily finishing a project, but it is becoming self-sufficient and doing the work. The question becomes, is it relevant? Yes, the SMART goal directly feeds into the longer term goal, and the time-based. So what I don't see in your SMART goal about the workplay toggle is a time box where you say, I would like to add this workplay toggle within the timeline of X. And here's the thing, that has a direct impact on how attainable the goal is. Because if I have the goal of achieving this in the next 20 minutes, maybe that doesn't happen. So if you set something that you are more comfortable with, or that you think you can reasonably obtain or reasonably attain, then that's the right way to frame it. So, without putting you too much on the spot, is it reasonable to say that within the next 3 weeks, a work play toggle will be on your portfolio site? Or 4 weeks? I mean, how many weeks before it is a reasonable choice to say that you've taken the time to do it and then you've done it? And so you can set a check-in to make sure that you've achieved it. And if you haven't, you just set a new time, right? Like, this is a personal system for managing your own career. We're not here to judge you for it. We're here to teach you to judge yourself. Right. Yeah. If 3 or 4 weeks sounds reasonable, always depends on that. But right. So, and that's exactly what it is in terms of dealing with this. Like, real life comes up and everything, and the other piece is, because the goal is that we schedule this reflection time and we check in on our goals. If something happens, like your back goes out on week 2 and you want more time, you say, well, listen, I will alter my goals. And at some point, by setting the specific target, and it's measurable, it's either there or it's not, but you can measure it on your weekly check-ins with your goals. And so we did this, we time-based. Why should I use SMART goals? I mean, the link is in the document, and the document is in the, here we go. There we go. I think the next thing is you would talk about is, how could you convert I have a medium-term app idea into smaller, achievable, measurable, actionable, attainable goals, and put it together. Like, if you say, I have an app idea, is the app mobile or web? Is the app Android or iOS? Is the app and maybe the first goal is like specific. The specific goal is write down a detailed description of what the app is. So even that isn't like make all the decisions right now. That is, set some time aside to allow yourself the time to think about and make the decisions. Measurable. A document exists where the decisions have been made at the high level. Attainable. Yes, you can do that. Relevant towards the long-term goal, the medium-term goal of, I assume, developing the app, right? I have an app idea for a medium-term goal as well. So towards the medium-term goal of, I assume, developing the app, not just having the idea and enjoying it, but and then time-based. When are you going to block out the time to record the details of the app? And do you... Okay, so in that space, you're much less defined here and have vague ideas and have made a single wireframe. Maybe the specific goal would be create a... if it has a name, create a GitHub repo with the name where you can put your work. One of the things, like, for example, if I go into projects under GitHub, so you can create a project. We're going to say app idea smart goal description study group real time demo template. Yeah, don't worry about it. I mean, you can play with that. It's not really important, but so columns to do, right? Preset none, create a column, and then I would say in process, right? And so you say, what were we saying? So smart goal number 1 was write down smart details of the app idea. Number one was like, what platform will it be? Whatever. Anyways, so there you go. You've got yourself a to-do. You can say, oh, I'm in process of doing that. Within GitHub itself, you can say, convert this to an issue. So you convert to the issue, and all of a sudden, you can go over here, and you've actually got... And now I can close the issue, because that was just a demo. And but... yeah, no, this projects page is amazing. I love it so much. And I can close this project because that's not a real project. So if we were going to go back to the specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-based, so specific, create the repo, upload the one wireframe page that you have. Measurable, is it done? Yes or no? Attainable? Yes. Relevant? Yes. Time-based? When will you have that done? Write that down. And again, if you do it in the time you give yourself, you get the point. If you don't do it in the time you give yourself more time. And you self-flagellate and you feel bad, and you should feel bad. Not really. Not really. That's a joke. Super funny. I'm so funny. So, in terms of what do you do? So these are some resources on the... that was actually, I think, the extent of what I really... like, these are some videos. Like, I think this is this Vanessa Van Edwards, she's like a bit of a Tony Robbins type grifter. I am super funny. Yeah, so this Vanessa Robbins is a bit of a Tony Robbins type grifter, and but she says fun stuff, and it's really interesting. One of the things this was particularly interesting, and I will full screen it here. And this is the reason I actually picked this video. We'll go back. So she has this worksheet. We'll let her talk to
different areas of your life. So I have something called a goal wheel. Okay. And this is 5 different areas, and I want you to look at this. And we have these for download for you as well. Look at each area of your life: business, friends, family, personal passions like your side projects, spiritual. This can be faith or work-life balance or mindset, and health. Okay. And then I want you to rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 5. 1 being needs a lot of work, 5 being stellar awesome.
Okay.
So
how things are now.
How things are now. So I have a picture of mine, if you want to see it, where I marked sort of my...
There you go. And so the idea of something like this is maybe you don't have all of your goals together right now, and maybe some of your goals are not particularly work driven, and this is something like, for example, I've got a 2-year-old son, and there was a period where when he was a fresh newborn where everything else fell to the side, and it was not important to work on career development or anything at that time. So this is a fungible type document. It shifts with, for example, like again, back to Glenn talking about their back. We have sometimes your business career. Sometimes your career is very important to you. Maybe it's a 4, maybe it's a 5, but then your back goes out, and then everything else falls down. Everything else is like a 0, and you've just got to work on the personal health portion of this thing. So she said in this interview that this was downloadable on the site, but I tried to get downloads off of her site, and it was not true. So that's why I say she's a grifter. But it probably was there at one time in 2014, and she's probably redesigned her site in the meantime. But she seems very smart. I think that the information that you get from her is useful, and I think she has right. Well, there we go. Now there is a front end goal of somebody who wants to have a front end challenge could make an interactive graph for planning your SMART goals. That would be really cool, like a to-do list, but with SMART goals. Anyways, that was generally, I think, everything that I wanted to cover this week. And again, none of that was specifically about the depth of programming, but I think what it does is it will help you guide and inform the degree to which you move forward in terms of the homework, which is making sure you sign up for the coding challenges. Again, if you are doing something like, if you are doing one of the things, what was it? Data Camp. Is this the one? Data Camp courses? I thought there were free courses at Data Camp. Oh, you just have to scroll down the page, I guess. Anyways, so if you are going through these courses in trying, if you've already got things that you are doing in terms of improving in your code space, certainly the Leak Code or the hacker rank is really geared towards and targeted at people who are specifically trying to get into and pass an algorithm type challenge. And so this is not a goal for everybody, but it's for next week. But this one I think is really important, and I think the remainder of tonight is probably worth doing this. Schedule a weekly check-in on this topic. Make sure that you are paying attention to your professional development plan on a weekly basis, and just keep checking. And so if we talk about checking in on a weekly basis, one of the nice things you can do for your SMART goals is you can set goals that are small enough that you can achieve in a week, given the amount of free time that you dedicate to your your personal professional improvement plan. Set the reminder in your phone so that it dings once a week to say, you know, your self-review time is coming up. You know, don't forget tomorrow that I have self-review, or when, whenever you set it, just, set a reminder. You can either set it to go, it's right now. You can set it to say, don't forget you've got to put an hour into this tomorrow, and then don't forget it's tomorrow, so do your thing. Actually do this. Actually go through this. Actually write it down. Again, like we just showed you in the projects, you can actually create a project and call it professional improvement. And what's really nice about that is it's really enjoyable in these professional these project Kanban things. So I've actually got a number of things here. It's really enjoyable to do. So you look at this and you go, oh, who did I have? So I had an interview with Mark Ando. I can actually move that over to here. So, here we go. Scheduled. I maybe have too many columns. One thing that would be really nice. So Arthur is. So actually, I guess you just archive these because they're done. I don't have a column for released, but so there you go. Like, I have a whole bunch of these that I haven't updated. So that's why again, archive. Anyway, so Josh hasn't done one, but he will one day. So there you go. Like, it's really enjoyable to knock things off of your professional development plan. I have now got an assignment to myself to make sure I check in on my LGTM plans every week and make sure that's going on. It doesn't take long. You've just got to go through and update yourself. And the only other thing that would be nice is you could either enlist somebody from the group. I think we have 6 people. It says that we have 6 people in chat right now. Some of them might be on YouTube. I'm going to look and see. None of them are on YouTube. Everybody's on Twitch. That's good. So you can draw from discussion. Yeah, you're in the queue, man. You're in the queue. We've got, but you can either pick somebody that you know from the chat, or you can try and get more people from your outside life. Maybe there are other people who are also interested in the self-improvement space, and you just sort of make sure, or that's what we're doing together in class. You come together, a study group. It's not really a class, but when we come together, that's your reminder that we have to follow up on this. Then the last piece that we have here would be we go to the calendar import tool and we'll talk about what is coming next week. Coding interview. And this may change so we are in weeks 2 and 3, and this stuff is more intense in terms of the computer science side of things. And my scope in this, as I say, so I got this book here. My plan is to go through and pick a few of these topics and just try and deliver high-level summaries in an educational style where hopefully you have a high-level overview possibly not at the level that you would need to pass a coding interview, but at the level that you would need in order to come in to study. If you wanted to come into studying for one of these, that you would have a place to start. And I know for some of for those of us who don't have our computer science degrees, it will be pitched at a level that is non-computer sciencey as much as we possibly can, even though it is computer science. So that will be the next 2 weeks. And I think the work around those 2 weeks will be we'll be practicing code problems, but it's just sort of a CS computer science topic. So that's the week. Do we have any further discussion, or maybe I go back to here and see if we achieved what I originally wrote down were the learning objectives. So did we acknowledge the need to memorize some language syntax for a code interview evaluation? We didn't really spend a lot of time on that, but again, if we look at the interview prep guide in week 1, they say do this. Yeah, let's read this before we go. So it's brush up on your chosen programming language. There's going to be a lot of things that you've forgotten when you have been coding for your day job. You use your preferred language. I've seen people struggling to remember simple things like how to read to and from files, how to read input from the console, how to split a string. And so some of this will all come back to you and become a bit more rote memorization as you go through coding challenges, which is going to be part of the exercise and practice in coming weeks. You've got to sort of sign up for your hacker rank or your elite code, and you just, these things kind of get drilled into you as you have to continually split strings. Of course, you could just Google those, but yeah, so if you're in an interview where you can Google something, that's cool, but it would take time Googling where you could be answering the questions. And so, and again, if you're doing whiteboards, so let's just acknowledge it and know that if you are going to do a coding interview, you've got to be ready in terms of writing code right on the fly, right as you go. Know the definition. I think we did a good job in discussing what that is. Scheduling weekly time is a homework item that I hope we have all come together on, and then engaging in a round of professional self-reflection. I think we did a pretty good job of sharing. And here, and what is this? Big tech salaries are commensurate with practicing doctors, lawyers, while taking only months to prepare for. Oh, stupid! I'm an idiot sometimes. I thought this was really cool. As I was saying to, I believe it was Arthur was the first person I realized that I was afraid of code interviews with, and then a week or two later I was talking to somebody, and it's really interesting to me that if you think how many years a doctor has to go to school to come out with a $300,000 salary, or how long a lawyer has to go to school for a $300,000 salary, or even anyways, so those are two massively highly paid, highly respected professions. And a lawyer is in school for 16 years or 20 years, and a doctor is in school for 20 years, and they have to take this massive, difficult, challenging exam. And realistically, if you have a reasonable amount of computing experience on your own, and you decide to pick up cracking the coding interview or going through just this sort of study group, and you put the work in to get yourself into a place where you are sure to pass this thing, then like Amazon pays Amazon can pretty easily pay $300,000 a year for somebody with experience in the place. And so this thing that takes months to study for is roughly equivalent in professional status and standards as a doctor and lawyer quite easily. And so I think that's really a really strong defense of these high difficulty coding challenges, because if you say, like, would you go to a hospital where they don't have intense or rigorous training standards and testing standards? Would you hire a lawyer who refused to take the bar exam? It's the big tech interview is hard and it's challenging, but the salaries are commensurate with these other professions that are also highly rewarded, and they don't take nearly as much time or investment to achieve. And so I think it really is a democratizing force in a lot of ways, because there are people who are self-taught developers who make it into coding and they go through code interviews. So I've really softened my opinion on the challenge of code interviews. And this other one was, again, this one actually is a discussion question or just something to think about, is, and I don't know what the answer is, but I did spend some time watching those YouTube videos from people who have worked in big tech, and I've heard the stories that, you really do have to put in a lot of hours. And so do you have to be a glutton for overtime to work in big tech, or are there places in tech where you can work a standard 40-hour week and still work on these large problems of scale and have that kind of stuff? Anyways, so that's this week, and I will at some point work on next week's content, and we will see you soon, unless there's anything anybody wants to say. It is a real pleasure. I've got to say that I've had such a long day today, and I've had a number of, I've just had such a long day, and I was, at one point I was dreading this, but I think being here and actually working through this with you is a lot more energizing than I expected it to be. So it's been a really it's been another really great week. So thank you for coming along, because again, I'm doing this studying anyways, and just having somebody to talk it through with this helps me get better at formulating some of this stuff. So all right. Okay, ending the stream. Thank you very much. We will see you next week. Then we say stop recording. Stop streaming.